Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry for the delay. I thought I'd already started. I'd started the video was going to my computer. I started on OBS and I didn't realize I had to click start streaming on this end as well because it's just been some changes to YouTube. So I was been talking for the past like 20 minutes or so without actually realizing it didn't go through. But okay. So, sorry about that. Thank you everyone who has come. Thank you everyone who's joined so far. Sorry about the delay. Now, yes. So thank you everyone who supported the channel. Thank you everyone who's helped me get to 1,000 subscribers. So I have about an hour. I'm gonna go for about an hour today. Live stream, answer all your questions. So what I'm gonna do, how it's gonna be set out, alternate between questions have already been asked on Twitter and also what's been going on in the live chat. And I'm going to go for about an hour, be alternating between those two. I'll try and give a fair amount of time to both. When I'm done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add timestamps to the video. So hopefully the next day, you guys can all see what's the relevant bits, and you can just find what questions you're interested in and find that. So hopefully you guys find this useful. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Again, this is my bad. I'm still not used to streaming, so apologies. But we can start now. So if you find this useful, hopefully you do, then let me know and I can do more stuff like it in the future. And yeah, so I have pre-recorded some videos for the rest of this month, so I won't get a chance to say it other than this. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. So thank you for coming to watch, and I'm going to start with the questions now. So again, I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start answering questions on Twitter. So if I go back, bear with me 2 seconds. I had them up 2 seconds ago. So okay. So I'm going to start here. So Kevin Abroad asks, how do you practice reading Chinese characters? So basically, reading Chinese characters, I'm going to talk about what I found what I thought was the most difficult time when I was learning to read Chinese. And obviously it's still an ongoing process. But when I first started, I used the book Heisig here, Remembering the Tradition of Hanzi. And there's 2 volumes. And what you get from going through that, you get a lot of character knowledge, but it's all really broken up. You know, it's very like you have a lot of character knowledge in your head, but you're not quite sure what to do with it. You know, everything's disconnected. It's all really hard, and you just look at it and you see a load of things that you should know, but you don't know how to read, and it can be very, very difficult. So, what I'd recommend then is basically taking a really short dialogue. You know, or short with audio and text, and the shorter the better because you're just first starting out. And basically read and listen through the same thing many times. So you read through once, see what you can make out. Read through again while listening, because I did input listening first, so my listening was better than my reading. And when I put the 2 together, I could understand more. And then after that, you go through and read slowly, look at the stuff you don't know. And then go back to reading and listening again, and finally strip the other stuff away and go back to just reading. So you get a lot of repetition with the same thing over. And I really just, pick a short chapter or short chunk of text and just do one every day and just go through like that. Coupled with, I'd say, some maybe more extensive stuff. You could try reading some easy manga. You could try going in language with friends and practice texting over there. That's super useful. So that's basically what I do. And then from there, I like to use big dialogues. So like YouTube, normally about 10 to 20 minutes long, important to link. And listen and read to that. That's going to improve your listening and reading. You can try doing both in isolation. I've got other videos talking about links, so I won't go into too much detail. And then eventually I like using Kindle, because you can still look up stuff really easily on this. You can just tap it with your finger, look up the words, and just try to do more extensive reading. So I'd start off like that, really intensive to begin with, short content. And then as you get better, you want to kind of move away from this intensive and short content to more extensive approach. And then really in the end, it's just a case of covering as much ground as you can. So that's how I'd go about reading characters. So thank you for the question. So Seabolt Speets says, So Seabolt Speaks says, what apps are you using for Chinese? I know Link, but do you use Duolingo, Lingodeer, iknow.jp, brackets Chinese one, or anything else? I don't actually know. And after this question, I go into the live stream and see what you guys are saying in there. So I don't actually know what Lingodeer or iknow.jp is, but basically here is all of the apps that I'm using for Chinese. So Anki and Anki and Link, I don't think I have to explain. Netflix as well is just extra exposure. I don't think I have to explain that. Pleco at the top is, he just mentioned, is my favorite dictionary for Chinese. It's a ton of useful features, especially for texting with your friends on stuff like Line and WhatsApp. Then you can check out the clipboard reader here, which is very useful. You just copy something into your clipboard, you press the copy button, go on the clipboard reader, and you can look up all the characters you don't know really easily. After that, Moe Dict. This is a monolingual dictionary if you're wanting to try out monolingual dictionary. So let me just give you an example quickly. So if I just switch my phone to Pinyin. Okay, so you can see here's the characters at the top. You've got the Bopomofo, the Pinyin, you've got the definition and an example sentence and the English down here. So you've got a lot of useful stuff. And a lot of the definitions also have audio as well. So that's really useful. Hello Chinese is kind of like Duolingo. I very, very rarely use this. It's just kind of like if I've got no Anki reps and I've got a few minutes to kill, I might go on this. In the bottom, Hello Talk is good for practicing if you want to find language exchange partners, you want to practice texting, but you don't have any friends that speak your target language, you can try that. Repeat Player, which is this one here, it's really useful for looping dialogue. So if I have a dialogue from a textbook, it's so like, all the way at the start, there's so much, there's like, hello, introduction, blah, 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 and then like 30 seconds in, the dialogue starts. So what you can do, I want to start from, say, 30 seconds to a minute, and you just loop that section of the audio track, that section of the MP3. So you can actually just focus on the bit that actually has the content in and ignore all the other stuff that you don't want. So if you studied a dialogue in the morning, or you know, from a textbook or whatever, where you want to focus on a specific bit or chunk of audio, I think that's really useful. And you can just, normally I listen to that on loop while I'm walking to and back from class if I'm not listening to something called Link. And the final app I have is this one. I'd highly recommend it if you have an iPhone or Apple phone, but the choice for Android is a lot less. So this is Manhuaren, which is a Chinese manga app. So on this, the Apple selection is really good. You know, when I had my iPhone, they had One Piece, they had Dragon Ball, they had Hajime no Ippo, all sorts of really big, famous Japanese mangas in traditional Chinese. But for some reason, on the Google store, they have very limited stuff from that's actually in traditional characters. They seem to be limited to just Chinese manga from mainland China, which most of it's in simplified. So I've not really used it that much, but I kind of find it kind of odd that the Google phone is mostly content from mainland China if Google's blocked in China. I don't completely understand that. But if you're learning simplified characters, it's worth a check out anyway, because there's lots of stuff like that, free manga that you can check out. And if you've got an iPhone, you can try the app as well, and you can get ones in traditional. And the website it's called dm5.com, which is more free manga and stuff like that on. And you can try and read stuff like that online. But they're basically the apps that I use. So yeah, thanks for the question, John. Okay, now go to the live stream. So, okay, how can watching movies with subtitles that disappear in seconds and images tell you a lot can help you learn a language faster than reading? Yeah, I don't think it does. I really don't think watching movies is better than reading. I think reading is probably the most effective way to increase your vocabulary, and I don't think there's really any replace for it. Having said that, I would also say that, you know, there's only so much mental resources or energy I have in a day. At least, you know, if I read for 1 or 2 hours in a day, I can't sit there reading for 5 hours a day. But what I can do is I can read for 2 hours a day or an hour a day, and then in my downtime I can watch stuff on Netflix. And I think it's that combining that reading and listening, because if you just read and don't listen, you're not going to get the sounds. Your listening is going to suck. You have bad pronunciation, all that stuff. So you really need to try and balance the two. And specifically in the beginning stages, what I like to do on stuff like Link is I like to read the text. I like import a YouTube video into Link, read the transcript of the video slowly, and then listen to that audio for the video when I'm walking to and back from stuff. So you're listening and reading to the same content. Yeah, I've learned English, Portuguese, German, and currently Mandarin. The last two by myself. Awesome, JR. That's polyglot in the making. My currency is not as powerful as sterling pound, so I cannot afford going overseas to study. I study in my native country. I'm using integrated Chinese 4th edition. So, James, what I said before, which is why I linked the scholarship page, but again, I hadn't started the live stream by then, basically was, if you're having trouble financing going to Taiwan, I really don't think like that you can have a look into scholarships, basically, and really, because from the Taiwanese government, and I think they have ones from mainland China as well, will give you 25,000 national Taiwanese dollars a month if you get the scholarship. And I know a lot of people are being able to survive and live, fairly comfortably in Taiwan just off the scholarship alone. And if that isn't enough, you can always try and get a job online. You can go on italki and earn in US dollars on italki and become a teacher, say teach English or German or whatever, and earn in US dollars, which converts very well to NTD. Or you can just get a part-time job here to get a bit of extra money, but the scholarship should cover you, fine. So I wouldn't let that stop you. If it's something you're interested in, I would definitely suggest looking into scholarships, because, I know a lot of people that have done that and, had great success. So on Twitter, Zari C asks, have you taken any HSK tests? No, I haven't. First of all, I'm not familiar with the simplified characters, so that's not something I've looked into at all. If I did at the moment, I'd be more inclined to do the TOCFL, which is the Teaching of Chinese as a Foreign Language, which is the one based here in Taiwan, although I am aware that it's not really very recognized. So maybe what I'll do sometime in the future when I return and I get more familiar with simplified characters, I can have a look at the HSK. But, in terms of choosing tests and stuff to go through at the moment, my Chinese is still relatively low. So basically what I'm doing is, if I have time, I'm going to be spending my time actually trying to raise my Chinese ability, listening and reading and like speaking with people instead of, studying grammar exercises for a test. I'm going to use my time to raise my Chinese, and then maybe when I'm better, I can start actually, looking at stuff like that later. Okay, so let me go back to the live stream here. 你觉得如果你先学了国语会很容易了吗？你觉得 Is this because, okay, so he asked, do you think if I learnt Guoyu, which is what they say for Mandarin here in Taiwan, like the national language, Mandarin Chinese, if I learnt that first, I think it would be easy. Do you mean before Cantonese? So I think I think you're talking about in respect to Cantonese, right? So I don't think it'd be easy. No, I think learning any Chinese language as a native English speaker is really hard. It's really distant. You've got the problem of the characters. You've got the problem of, you've got the characters. You've got all the sounds in there. You've got the especially with Mandarin Chinese. I find there's more with Mandarin than Cantonese. A lot of the sounds you listen and they go, okay, this is the bopomorphic for this or the pinyin for this, and this is this sound. You're like, that sounds exactly the same. Like I can't tell the difference. So I think the sounds can be quite hard. I think listening is very difficult. So I don't think it'd be easy at all. I think it's a lot easier have experience with Cantonese, and I feel like it's making me progress a lot quicker. And I feel like if I flip that in reverse and learn Mandarin first, learning Cantonese would be a lot easier as well. Bro, what's my stats on Anki? Ooh, good question. I have no idea. I don't really look at my stats on Anki, but I'll have a look for you now if you want. Let me tell you what. Let me minimize my screen and pop up Anki. So these are my reps for today, which I'm going to do after this live stream, which is why I don't want to stay up too late. But you can see here it's quite tame. 100 100 so reps a day, which is, probably half of an hour I can do this. So let's go into Chinese characters, I guess. My stats on Anki. Let's see. 46 for tomorrow. My retention rates. It's. Here we go. His retention rates. So you've got mature learnt 74%. You've got young learnt 86%, and you've got like the new card 74%. So not brilliant. I find that when they slip to mature cards that they are a lot harder to keep going. And if I show you this is writing got characters from Heisig. If I go to my sentence mining deck, I guarantee this will be lower because what I'm doing here is dictation. So I'm basically writing out, I hear a sentence and I write out the sentence by hand. If I get a single character wrong, I mark it as wrong. So yeah, this is, again, only 22 cards tomorrow. I haven't got these wrong yet. It'll be more once I go through. But go down to the retention and... Wait, what? That's a lot higher than I thought. It doesn't feel like that high. It's quite odd. But yeah, my sentences here are quite low, like 910 total cards. Some of the 6 are suspended here. So yeah, this is my Anki stats. I'm very, very light on the Anki at the moment. So I don't know if that's what you wanted to look at. If there's anything more specific, then you can let me know. Let me full screen this. But yeah, I'm not big on Anki. Like I prefer small amounts of Anki and then really just, actually spending my time listening and reading. I find Anki so boring compared to spending time with interesting content. I've been recently going through nutrition videos on YouTube, and the guy's channel is so good. He speaks, he's funny, he's quite charismatic. You can watch the videos. I've got a lot of YouTube channels I really, really like at the moment, so I'd much rather spend my time going through watching videos on YouTube and reading than actually spending time Anki. It's not even close, man. So yeah, if you're interested in specific recommendations for Chinese, one of the videos I've recorded for later in the month is a YouTube tutorial on how to use YouTube and what my favorite channels and all that good stuff. So hopefully that's useful. So 我多大？好像你是一个工程师，但是你看起来很年轻。Okay. Tyler's World, how old are you? You look like you're an engineer, but you look really young. Okay. I'm 25. I graduated from university 3 years ago. End of 2016. Yes, closer to 3.5 now. It's fucking goes quickly. End of 2016, and then I worked for a company called Lindy Gases. Lindy Gases, they are an industrial gases company selling oxygen, mixed gases, car CO2, stuff like that. I worked on the engineering graduate scheme for 3 years, basically working as a chemical engineering grad scheme. So I did a role, 1 year project engineer, 1 year SHEC, which is safety, health, environment and quality, and last year was a process engineer. I've taken a year out to come to Taiwan, and I'll go back and finish the scheme after that. So yeah, I'm 25. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here in the chat, so I'm going to try and prioritize the chat to get through some of this. I've never ever gotten links import function to work. For YouTube videos, I don't know why with traditional Chinese, I never had this problem with Spanish, but sometimes when I import videos on YouTube, the audio doesn't take it. It takes the text, it takes the subtitles, but it doesn't take the audio. Sometimes what actually made it not work before, which is worth looking into, is I went on a YouTube video to import Chinese subtitles, and I went import, why isn't it working? And then I look on the YouTube, has listed the subtitles wrong. They've listed it as English subtitles, not Chinese. So the link was like, there's no Chinese subtitles, I can't take them, and I had to copy it in manually. But yeah, I from the most part, I have no problem with a link import function, especially with Spanish. It worked perfectly fine. With traditional Chinese, it seems to have problem taking the audio, so sometimes I just download it manually. But I'd speak to the link support team, not me about that. Okay. Now let's go to so the translation game asks, how do you improve your writing? I'm going to try and I could probably do a whole video on this, and maybe I will in the future, but I'm going to try and give a short answer here. And when you're talking about writing, there's really two areas I could go into here, which is one, if you're talking specifically about Chinese, how do you, like learn more characters to write by hand? And two is, how do you improve the skill of writing, which if you're talking about using a computer or like phone or whatever, and you're writing about essays and articles, how do you improve your general writing skill? I'm assuming it's the latter that's going to be the relevant to most people, so that's what I'm going to talk about here. If it's not, and you did mean the first one about Chinese characters, then leave me a comment and I can happily answer your question then. So the first thing is, if you look at all writers, the one thing they have in common, all good writers, is they are avid readers. They read a lot. So, if you want to improve your writing, the first and foremost is read a lot. And I think that's, that's far and away number one. Next, I say in terms of, you'd actually have to think a bit about the way you go about writing and the method. So like, you're talking about how do you structure it, right? So, and put yourself in the position of the reader. So first, how you structure it is, they say that, I can't remember if it was in sales or something, they said basically, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you've just told them. So it's really clear. First you say I'm writing an essay on, in class I was writing an essay, it says, the more strict your teacher is, the better you'll learn Chinese. Do you agree? So first I go, I'm writing an essay about this is the topic, and I disagree for these 5 reasons. And then you go, reason 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you write out in a lot of detail, and then at the end you sum up and say, in summary, overall, I think this because of these reasons, and maybe offer an alternative or a solution. I think this would be the best way to go about it. I think this would be the better way to teach, and so on, and really think about that. And the other thing is putting yourself in the position of the reader. This was a problem I had a lot at work last year. I was working as a process engineer, and I had a lot of reports. I had to write technical reports, writing up calculations I've done. And one of the key things with writing up calculations is you want to be very, very clear about all the assumptions you've made. So, let's say there was this tank full of liquid oxygen, and you have to know what's the level in the tank, okay? And you've got a level transmitter which sends a reading, it sends a signal, so the operators can see how high is the level in the tank. This thing needs to be calibrated. So you say it reads a pressure difference across here, and then it converts that to an electric signal, which then converts it to a level. So it needs to be calibrated so the operators know how much electric signal corresponds to how much level in the tank. You need to do a calculation based on that. And always in engineering, you go with the more conservative assumption. So I'd typically say, I took this pressure and this temperature to be the most conservative. And I didn't say why, just to be the most conservative. And then, my colleague reads it and goes, okay, why is this the most conservative? You need to explain, you need to be clear. You can't, when you're writing something you're familiar with, it's easy to have jumps in logic, but you look back and you say, okay, why? And you need to explain clearly and explicitly say why it is, and really put yourself in the position of a reader who hasn't been looking at the same thing you have for the past week. So that's what I'd say for improving your writing, First of all, a lot of reading. Second of all, you need to spend a lot of time writing specifically about stuff you're actually interested in. If you can make it tangible and about topics you're interested in, then that's even better. You have to make it meaningful, and if you're writing it, it's good to get it corrected, otherwise there's not going to notice your mistakes. And then apart from that, try and think about structure and put yourself in the position of the reader. So Gendrick asks, do you think it's more useful to learn both volumes of RTH at once, or learn the second volume later when you're more advanced and encounter the complex characters more often? Oh man, this is a tough question. Let me think. So the thing is with RTK, once you've completed the first, RTH, remembering the Hanzi. I'm used to watching HCASs do videos. When you complete RTH, the first one, you go through 1,500 characters, and by doing that, you basically gain the ability to break down characters into primitive elements. You can see any character and say, this has this, and this element, and they're no longer squiggly lines anymore. They actually have some sort of meaning. So I'd say, it depends on your timelines, really, because once you finish the first one, you're fine to jump into reading. I don't even think the second volume is necessary. The keywords get very weird, and there was a lot of English words in the definitions I didn't know, which causes it a lot of problems trying to remember something for an English word I don't know. I have to look it up, and then that gets more complicated, So I really have to say you have to look at your goals. I think overall, learning all 3,000 is a good idea. And if you can do it and you can slog through it, then that's probably, if you've got long-term goals, it's probably best. But I was in the position that when I finished the first one, the idea of starting a second RTH, I just was done. I wanted to start using it, and if you keep on accumulating character knowledge, it gets to a certain point when you think, okay, I've accumulated this knowledge, but at the moment it's useless because I can't use it. And then I wanted to prioritize actually using it. So, I really think you have to look at what your goals are, what your timelines are. In the long term, if you can slog through it, it probably is beneficial to go through both at the same time, but it's definitely not mandatory. I mean, I didn't. And I think the second one isn't even mandatory. Like I said, once you finish the first one, the thing you need to prioritize above anything else is just reading as much as you can. Okay. So thanks for the question. Okay, so now I'm going over to my YouTube video where I announced this, and I'm going to go through some of the questions down there. There's quite a lot, so again, I'm going to alternate between here and the live stream. And again, I'm going to try and prioritize the live stream. So, hi Luke, good work. My question relates to RTK, brackets Hanzi, so remembering the Hanzi or Hanzi. I say Hanzi because in Cantonese, the Z is pronounced Z, and I read it as Hanzi when I was learning Cantonese, so anyway. Can you elaborate on your experience? Do you find it hard to recall characters? Is your understanding deepening through both dictionary definitions, reading, and cultural nuances? Can you recall stroke order, and how do you best achieve this? Are you finding 3,000 characters sufficient? Do you struggle to read quickly and hear the sound of characters, etc.? Any thoughts appreciated? Again, this is a tough question. I'm going to give this my best go. So, first of all, do I find it hard to recall characters? In an Anki setting, I showed you my stats a second ago. The majority of them, no. Not in an Anki setting, at least. It's, 75 to 80% recalling is fine, I think. In an Anki setting, I want to stress, in an Anki setting. But sometimes when you first start writing, a lot of the characters that you have the Heisig definitions linked to are not necessarily linked up to the words. So even simple stuff like you say, like 现在, which mean like now, you'd be like, okay, well, 现在是什么 is what 现 and what 在, and you go, okay, well, what characters is it? What definition is it? Just because you can write it in a Heisig doesn't necessarily mean you can write it in a sentence. And there's really only one way around this, which is to practice writing full sentences, which is why when I was doing my sentences on Anki, I switched to dictation and listening and writing down what they were saying, because I found, my writing of complete sentences was actually quite bad, even though I could write a lot of characters in isolation, because the skills don't necessarily translate. Having said that, in class, when we're going over new characters now, or new words, and they go, learn this word to write in a sentence or whatever, I go, oh, it's a character for A plus a character for B, and it's incredibly easy. If you just put a little bit of attention on remembering that word, you go, I know both of these characters and how to write them. I just put them together and I get a word, and it's that. It cuts out a lot of the work, so it really, really does make the process a lot smoother. So I really think, it's definitely not a silver bullet. It's definitely still a lot of work to do, and it's probably still got the most of the work to do, but it still gives you like a big boost. Okay, is your understanding deepening through both dictionary definitions, reading, cultural nuances? Yeah, I think. Okay, so dictionary definitions. If you look up a word and you say get the gist or the idea of what it means, depending on the word. Sometimes if it's a noun, you look it up and you say, okay, this is a dog. Great, you know what it means. It's a dog. It's a noun. It's very concrete. If you're talking about stuff like, say, should, and you translate it to yingai in Chinese, okay, well, that's not a one-to-one mapping as you'd use it in English. So I find the dictionary definition gives you a idea of what it means, but reading is what gives you a more clear idea and a more appreciation of how to use it as you see the same word in multiple contexts. You really need to read a lot for that. So I'm finding, the more I read specifically, the more I listen as well. It's getting easier. As for cultural nuances, there is, I think cultural nuances, again, reading can help with this if you're reading stuff from that country, but also I'm finding the more I hang around with Taiwanese people, I'm understanding the implications and cultural nuances of certain things more. So, for example, they've got the character for ta, which is he. They've got the one with the man on the left, the one with the woman on the left, and the one with the cow on the left. And the one with the cow on the left is traditionally used to depict animals. And then, just the other day, I think it was yesterday, my friend said, a lot of us who are animal rights activists here in Taiwan, we don't like to use that one because of the historical connotations, and it has a really negative, paints animals in a really negative light, like they're there for us to use and blah, 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 blah. And, there's all these historical connotations with it, which is why we're against this, right? And I was like, oh, I never knew that. I was just using it, like anything else. And another example is in the character, in the word for tomato, fan xie. This fan in that, I realised the other day, I think I saw in another word, that it actually traditionally means stuff that's not from China, because once upon a time China thought their stuff is the best, their stuff is superior. From every other country it's just not as good. So they were traditionally labelling stuff with this fan xie, the fan nigger character, and then if it uses that character, it goes, it's not China, it's not as good, we want to use Chinese stuff. And that was the original connotation for why it was used. And this is all stuff my friends have told me. So I think cultural connotations, hanging around with real people is, I think that's the best way, I think it's the most fun way as well. If you had 1 hour to study, how would you spend it? How would it differ from if you were beginner to intermediate to advanced? Great question. It's a very, very good question. As a beginner, I would typically take a textbook full of dialogues, and I'd go through, spend 1 hour every day dissecting that dialogue, listening and reading over, multiple times to the same thing to try and cover a lot of ground, and every day study a new dialogue. Depending on how easy it is, maybe you can go through 2 dialogues like that, and first listen, see what you can understand with raw audio, add the text, listen and read. You can probably understand more because you hear words that you thought you didn't know, you see the characters or the text, you realize you did know them. Then you go through slowly, look at the words you don't know, go back to listening and reading, and again go back to just listening at the end. And the idea is by the end of the hour you want to understand 100% of that with just the audio. That's what I do as a beginner. I'm typically with quite short stuff, so I can listen a lot, because everything's so new as a beginner. The grammar's new, the sound system's new. You really need more repetition to get used to this. Now, when I move on to intermediate, typically I import videos from YouTube to link with CC subtitles. And for Chinese recommendations, again, in a few weeks' time, I think the video is going to be super useful. I'm going to be talking more about how to use YouTube to learn. So you can expect that coming. And basically import these videos into links. So what I'd do is, at an intermediate stage, I'd stress more vocabulary acquisition. So the quickest way is just you want to pick a longer video because there's more content. So I don't want to spend time listening a lot first, because that's, I want to go to increase my vocabulary as quick as possible. So normally I go read through first, look up all the words I don't know, because this is stressing on vocabulary, not as much on listening. And then when you've read through and look at all the words you don't know, then I read through reading and listening again at the same time, pressing the back 5 seconds button and link if I didn't hear something clearly or didn't understand something, checking the definitions of the stuff you miss and just going through like that. So you really go through in still a fair amount of detail, and you go through twice like that. Normally, if it's a 20-minute video or 10-minute video to 20-minute video with subtitles, that can take an hour just doing that. And from there, you take the audio on my phone on the Link app, or just download it or whatever if you don't want to use the Link app, and listen to it when I'm passively walking about, and try to really pay attention when I'm walking to and back from uni and my commute. In an advanced setting, this is tough because you really, at all stages, you really want to be getting both audio and text input. At an advanced stage, I'd recommend reading. Probably no surprise, read as much as you can on whatever you find interesting. Try to find stuff at a good level. I really like the Kindle. I'd recommend the Kindle highly for reading. It's very, very smooth and pleasant experience, and you can look at words quite easily still. So yeah, I'd read as much as possible. Whether that's a whole hour, if that's all you did, I think there's no listening there. So yeah, I'm not sure, because normally typically I'd read for an hour, and then in my downtime I'd watch TV in that language. But if you only had an hour and you didn't have any outside immersion, maybe read for 40 minutes, and then in the last 20 minutes listen to the audio for the chapter you just read. Yeah, I still can't keep up with Chinese subs. Yeah, that's just comes in time. I think it's just a case of familiarity. So I think the more you watch, the easier it'll become. So yeah, it happens. Have you watched? Oh, sorry, I just jumped. I still so you just said that. So Tyler's World. Have you watched Happy Conga's channel for Cantonese? No, I have not. I'm going to try and go through a bit fast now because there's a lot of comments here. So Mandarin has many scholarships for studying Chinese unis. Yes, and I'm using the Hanyu Enrichment Scholarship, which I linked above in the chat. Okay, so speak Chinese, brother. Ni hao. I'm going to keep this stream in English because I'm guessing most people here can't speak Chinese and answer your questions. So, yeah, okay. 继续返香港. I don't know. I'll have to. When am I going to go back to Hong Kong? I'll have to wait and see. Probably not for a while. Maybe after I leave Taiwan, I might go for a little bit, but I have to wait and see. Okay. So 你点睇香港某啲嘅情況? Yeah, I don't really. You mean the situation now in Hong Kong? Yeah, it sucks, man. I think it's very, very bad, but I'd try and want to keep this more language related. I think the police are going way too far. I think, the fact that China already had an agreement with Hong Kong as to what should be in place, in terms of, they wouldn't change anything for 50 years, and yet they are completely going against what they said and just starting to change stuff now. If we can't trust them on that, then what can we trust them on? Thoughts that come to mind, but yeah, it sucks. I send lots of love and support to Hong Kong, and I hope all of you stay safe, because that's the most important thing. Mandarin resources like 50 times more. Yes, they are loads. Tyler's World. I learnt Mandarin first in Cantonese. That's the opposite around to me. Hello from us three in Baden-Baden. Hello, Pam, which is my mum. I'm guessing us three is referring to my mum, dad, and brother. So hello, thanks for watching. Sir Muse, what's your motivation for learning Chinese? If you're referring to Cantonese, it was you. Which is probably why she's just wants me to say it on the live stream. When I was in uni, I played table tennis. I had not a lot. I had some friends from Hong Kong. Mostly, I had my girlfriend and was friends with her friends as well. And yeah, I thought, if I'm gonna be with this person, I think learning another language, it sounds like a good idea, and then it sounds like something that's worthwhile, so I can communicate with the friends and family and kind of join in on the conversations in dinner more. And then when I started, I kind of just got addicted to the process and of learning, the progression, and how fun it is, and kind of the journey of discovery when you go through learning a new language. And also, yeah, it just made me want to keep going and learn more. So that's why I learned Cantonese. And Mandarin is just kind of, I enjoyed Cantonese, so I probably enjoy Mandarin as well. And it's true, I think they're both incredibly interesting. So yeah, thanks, Muse, and happy birthday for the 17th. I really enjoy your videos. You make me want to start my own channel. How do you overcome not understanding when you're reading? I get hung up on what I don't know, and then I end up cram words into Anki. Ooh. Yeah, I think, okay, look, I think when you're looking at either watching or listening to stuff, the ability to not focus in too much on noise, the ability to accept noise and accept ambiguity for what it is, and just understand and enjoy what you can, is an incredibly big micro skill. How to understand what you can't understand when reading. Okay, so the first thing is, when I'm a beginner, I read on link. So I look up everything. It's as easy as clicking on my mouse. And like that. And when I get a bit better, I said I moved to Kindle, and I try to focus on what do I need to know to understand it, or what looks important, what do I feel like I need to know. And it's more of a feel thing. I try to not look up too much and just focus more on extensive exposure. So yeah, I think it's just something you have to get used to. I think it seems very weird and unnatural at first, but I just persist. And I think when you realize that when you read something, you can still enjoy it, even if you don't understand it perfectly, it can be quite nice and quite rewarding. And that sense of, wow, that was actually, I just read something, I didn't understand it perfectly, but it was actually really fun. A lot more fun than going and looking up every single word. So that's, I'd say just give it a shot, try to stick with it, and if you have some positive experiences, then you want to keep going. So yeah. So again, I know I've got quite a few messages here. I will go back to one of my again, I'll try not to spend so long on each question. So, hi mate, what was your immersion process and how do you go about it? I watched your lesson at the 6-month mark, and it's impressive how you were able to say so much in real time. And this is by Joshua Jones. For me, I've studied Mandarin for about 11 months now. Still struggle saying things when having a lesson with my teacher, although listening is okay. For what it's worth, I would listen to pure dialogues from Chinese Class 101, pop-up Chinese, and sometimes up to 2 hours a day, passive / active immersion while at work. Also using the link mini stories. Okay. So, first thing, I don't know how long you've been learning for. If you've been going for 11 months, okay, 11 months mark. Okay, so I would, at that level of Chinese, I would say get away from Chinese Class 101, get away from pop-up Chinese, and use YouTube videos. You can quite easily now find YouTube videos with CC subtitles. You can use to import into link. You can use to study out of link as well, and just go through that. I think if you're using authentic content with natural speech, it maps much better to speaking, and especially to understanding native speakers. You said your listening's okay, so in terms of you can say so much in real time. Yeah, so I like to think of it this way: you've got your comprehension. Okay, so if you look at improving the speaking ability, it hits a glass roof eventually, which is as high as your listening comprehension is. The higher that listening is, the higher you can speak. But in order to speak well, you need to speak a lot. So, if it's not flowing right away, then again, the more you listen, it will get easier, because some stuff just gets ingrained in your head after you hear it hundreds and thousands of times. How can you not recall it? The second thing is just speak more. I think the reason is because I'm here in Taiwan. I speak every single day for probably a few hours a day. So I think it's just a case of muscle memory. It's a case of just getting used to it, and the more you speak, the quicker it'll go. So Bo Smith, congrats. Do you find remembering the Hanzi helped you a lot? I've been going through it mainly in preparation for writing ready to go to NTNU. However, it seems a bit strange what you suggest to do it alongside it. Do you think perhaps making sentence cards for basic day-to-day tasks in Anki? Yeah, the thing is about RTH, remembering the Hanzi, and for those of you who don't know, this is the book here, Remembering the Hanzi, for a method for learning Chinese characters when you learn characters in isolation, based on an English keyword. You don't learn anything in context. So yeah, it is weird in the way that nothing's attached to real Chinese, which is a big critique people have. But the big bonus is because it overly simplifies the process, you can get to it very, very quickly. So, you know, if you're preparing for NTNU, I'd say, depending on how much time you have, you can blast through the first one. And if you're really like dedicated, 2 months, probably 3 months is more realistic for most people. And even 4 months, you know, depending on how much you do a day. I don't know what your time schedule's like, but I think the power in that is you can blast through it. And then what you do alongside it, I suggest making sentence cards. Dude, I would not do sentence cards alongside RTH purely because the reps you're going to have to do on Anki just for the character study is going to be quite high. So I'd wait and do that after. Now what you can do is you can read simple texts, you can try doing stuff with simple dialogues and say link or just a YouTube video, you can watch stuff with Chinese subtitles to pair up the audio to the sounds, you can text your friends, you can read manga, like simple manga, like say some of the simplified Dragon Ball comics for kids are perfect, and just do stuff like that and do real content. I'd say anything you're supplementing RTH at the time should be outside of Anki because you're already going to be doing a lot of reps. I wouldn't add on top of that pain. Okay. Bob Saget asks, has your Spanish and Cantonese ability diminished? Yes. Yes, they have. So I'm going to talk a bit about Spanish first, because I guess that's a simpler answer. For Spanish, yes, my comprehension has dropped a little bit, and my speaking was a bit hazy. You know, I feel like it's there. My comprehension base is still there. I watched a few videos the other day, and I could understand most of it still, but it's like that sharpness, that edge is gone. You know, which is not a surprise. I learnt it I studied it for a period of 6 months. So anything that I did learn was because it was quite a short period of time. It makes sense that also forget it over a relatively short period of time. So yeah, my outputs drop more than my comprehension, which is the same for Cantonese. But I feel like the underlying base, the core is still there, and that anything I lost, I could probably get back in a few weeks. That's the feeling I get, because it still feels like I've still got the core there and I can still understand quite a lot, especially, you know, reading more than listening is quite easy as well in Spanish. With Cantonese, my comprehension, I watched a video, my friend sent me a video in Cantonese on YouTube the other day. I could understand what they were saying, but this is where it gets a bit messy. So my Mandarin, and I talked about this a bit in my progress video, my Mandarin environment is very, very strong at the minute, where I'm spending 3 hours of class a day, plus homework, plus an hour of study in the morning, plus 2-3 hours of immersion a day watching TV, plus speaking with my friends a few hours a day. Not every day, but a lot of the time. So it's like, okay, well, I'm basically spending my entire life in Mandarin at the moment, probably all like 80%, 90% of my life in Mandarin here. So it's like, okay, my Mandarin environment's so strong at the moment, even though I can understand Mandarin, even though I was just like, and this happened with my friends, my girlfriend and her friends came here, I was like, okay, I want to say something, and I was like, okay, I kept on saying like, yidi for like a little bit, and I'd be like, oh, yidian, oh wait, no, but then instead of saying hiya, I'd be like, oh, doya, oh wait, no, that's wrong. And you know, even though I understand what they're saying, when I go to reply, it's Mandarin in my head now, not Cantonese. So that's the thing. My core's still there, and if I stop and think, I can go, okay, that's Mandarin, don't say that, say this other one. but the processing time is so long now, like maybe like 3 times longer to say a sentence, just because I have to like push the Mandarin, the Cantonese out my head. I mean, push the Mandarin out my head before I can say the Cantonese. So yeah, I think that's definitely a problem. But again, the call's still there. I think because Cantonese and Mandarin are similar, it's affecting my Cantonese more. And you know, at some point in the future, I can see at some point in the future I'm going to focus on like reviving the two and you know, working on getting Cantonese and Mandarin separate, because I think that's going to be a problem in itself. So Lingua Passion, Stefano is a great polyglot as well, and friend, so thank you. Congrats for the 1k threshold league. I'm a fan of yours, keep it up. I'd recommend checking out his channel as well. Let me just leave a link in the chat here for anyone who's interested. And yeah, thank you for the shout out, Stefano. I really appreciate it, and best of luck. I think congrats on past 10k subscribers now, so that's a big landmark as well. Okay. And then this is the last question I've got from the YouTube video, and then I'm going to focus solely on the live stream. Hopefully I can get through your questions a bit quicker then. So The Adventures of Pete says, "Hi Luke, watching lots of your videos alongside Matt vs Japan. Congrats on 1,000 subs. I have 2 questions. Could you give some insight into how do you go about outputting, as you seem to do it a lot earlier than age-up people, yet clearly are successful in it? And how soon do you start? What is your method of speaking? Secondly, I've started sentence mining and was wondering how many sentences to add per day. Matt did about 10 per day over most of his time learning Japanese. Obviously this fits in how much time is spent learning the language total. Thanks." Okay, so outputting. I'm going to start with that. And I think inside the okay, I could probably make a separate video on this altogether. But looking at the best time to output, you have to take into a lot of factors into consideration. You have to take into effect what your goals are, whether you want to speak perfectly or not, what level you want to reach to, you know, what's your timeline, also just stuff like that, and also psychological factors, which are the biggest influencing factor in my decisions that I make. You know, are you scared? Are you anxious? Are you nervous about speaking? Are you, you know, if you're apprehensive, then maybe it's best to just jump over the hill and get it over with and boost your confidence. Are you lacking motivation to study? You know, or are you really enjoying your input? All these things can affect it, because if you speak early and you can get over the fear of speaking, that's a positive. It can give you a real sense of tangible progress and motivation early on, which is going to give you a lot of motivation. That's a positive. So these two things, I think, are the biggest upside to speaking early, especially the motivation side of it. It can really make everything feel tangible and real, because you're speaking to a real person. And that sense of motivation I've not got from input. So, you know, if you're finding demotivating, like you can't be bothered to keep going, you know, you've given up on it, then I'd say speak earlier if you want, that's fine. Now, I wouldn't say speak from day one. I find that's, to be honest, completely pointless. I don't really understand that method at all. It makes no sense, because you've got no words. Like, why would you speak from day one when you've got no words, you've got no vocabulary to use? So what are you going to say? You're going to be spending most of the time on that Skype lesson listening. So if you're going to be working on listening through a Skype lesson, it makes more sense to do it with content that has a transcript, and you can learn a lot quicker. So like an hour on link would improve your listening a lot more than an hour on Skype, because you know, you've got a transcript and you can look up all the words. So typically, for me, I like to have a balance of, yeah, speaking earlier than age 8 guys, but I wouldn't speak from day one, because that makes no sense. And I'd typically say 3 months-ish of input and then speak, because normally by that point, depending on the language, you've got sort of a base you can understand, and you can defend yourself in a conversation. You can, with Spanish, I could understand most of what the teacher was saying when he was speaking clearly, obviously, and using fairly simple words, but I could understand most of what they were saying, and it was more of a vocabulary limiting factor. So I'd say, what's my method to start speaking? Normally I start on italki, because I feel like in that environment on Skype, you can ask, you know, and you can see some of my previous videos for Chinese on this. If I don't know a word, they can type it in the chat box, they can type it in Google Translate. So much And, if they type a new word in the chat box that I can't understand listening, I can look it up, or they can tell me what it means. And then I have a record of the new words in a list after. So I feel like for first speaking on Skype, on iTalk, is like a safe environment and a very good one for learning, because you've got the features in Skype you can use to help you. As far as AJAC goes and not speaking for a few years, I think it makes sense if you want to reach to a high level. If you want to really focus a lot on pronunciation and accent and intonation, you want to really try and sound as close to a native as possible. That's never been something I've put that much emphasis on. So yeah, I'm more about, this is a hobby, I'm doing it for fun. I enjoy speaking to people, I want to connect with real people, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do what I find fun. And if you're the same, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't speak earlier. And even if you want to speak from day one, I said I don't think it makes sense. But if you want to and you find it fun, then, I don't see any reason why you can't. So, sentence mining. How many sentences do you add per day? I very rarely add new sentence cards. I get most of my input from Netflix, YouTube, and reading. I very rarely do sentence cards. And the ones that I've added were dictation cards. So again, anything I do add, it's going to be going very slowly. Adding them a lot slower pace compared to the AJ guides. And, I don't like Anki, to be honest. It's really boring. So the less I can do that, the more the better. I find it, look, if I'm just starting a new topic, say I just started learning more about nutrition and learning how to express about nutrition and talking about like stuff like that in Chinese, I feel like getting the sentence mining, like a few videos and documentaries or whatever from that, getting a base and helping that get up, and then from there, once you've got a base, watching and reading a wide range of material about that topic is going to be the only thing that's going to get you to actually understand that topic properly. Whether you do it with Anki or without, you need to do a lot of listening or reading. So I find, for me, I'd prefer to focus on the input because it's more fun. Okay, so that's the I believe the end of the questions that I got sent over before. So now I can stick to actually answering in the live stream. So I know there's a lot of questions here. I'm going to try my best to go through all of them and try not to spend too long on each question. So James Cook, I will start to read basic stuff once I finish all integrated Chinese series. Awesome. James Cook, I don't use Anki. I create my own color-coded flashcards that I separate into categories. If it works for you, great. That seems, I don't know, inefficient, but like I said, it's all about preference. The main thing is lots of listening and reading. Anything you do on top of that is a bonus, so do what you like. Okay. How are you doing RTH? English on the front and then Chinese on the back. Yes, Jordan. Okay, let me show you my I think I got my Anki again. So if I go on so this is an Anki card for RTH, and then basically got the characters in the back. So English, pinyin, character, high-sig number. And then for some of them, because I'll have to find an example, so bear with me. Some of them, here you go. As I find the word it's used in, so this was cho, which means to draw out. Found it paired with this character, which means to take blood or to draw out blood. I then typically add the second character of the word that I've seen it in, because at least it gives me some context. And then when I'm reviewing the cards, I write out both characters together. Okay, so that's how I'm reviewing the cards. And this, I didn't change all the cards because there's thousands, just when I'm reviewing sentences or whatever, or I'm reviewing a flashcard and a word pops to mind that I can use it, I just add it, as I'm reviewing. I don't just kind of slowly, bits at a time, just slowly trying to progress more to this sort of card and away from the ones like this without the words on the front, so without the extra characters on the front. So that's what I've been doing for RTH. Cheng Sui Publishing House has amazing readers books for all levels. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. What? Okay, I'm drinking water. This is just water. I went out to my friends here Junjun, so I don't know if she's watching. Junjun, hello. I went out with her on her company's trip today, and she had loads of coupons to buy, like stuff where we got loads of free food. It was for a work thing, and this container was 100 NTD, which is about £2.50, but she had loads of coupons, so I got this for 10 NTD, which is like 25p. Just water. And I went off, we did loads of stuff. We did like, there's some like trampoline with a bouncy thing, there was like the basketball mini game, there was like there was go-karts, which was quite funny. We actually had like on the day we saw the advert for the go-karts, and it looked like it was going to be really impressive, and then when we turned up, it was just like these little piddly things, and I kind of figured like it was completely misadvertised altogether. So I'm gonna give me 2 seconds and I'll show you the picture now, because I was thinking should I share this or not, but seeing as it's come up, I'm gonna show you, because this is quite funny not to share. So let me just find the picture. Okay, so let me again make this a bit smaller. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so this is we looked at the advert here. This is with my friend Junjun. So he had a work event, and this is karting chair, which is like the go-karts, and I was like, oh, this would be sick. I get to go on free go-karts. It's gonna be so much fun. And then when we arrive at the thing, it's like, oh, it's just this like little piddly thing when you have to like lean from side to side to steer it, and like a few cones. I was like, oh my god, 被骗了嘛，被骗了. So your gender, I think it was that was quite an interesting experience. But actually, in terms of like the experience, I've done normal go-karts quite a lot, so that was quite funny. And it was like it was so unstable. It was quite well, I mean, I said it was like a turbulent Jingyan, which it is quite a special experience, but it was definitely interesting. But yeah, I'm drinking water. So yeah, how can people learn patterns and structures if they just want to be couch potatoes watching Netflix? Yeah, I'd say the best way to absorb structures is reading. I'd say read more, combine reading with Netflix in your downtime, and then if you see something you don't understand, look up the structure to understand the content you're listening or reading to, not the other way around. So I think you use the grammar to understand what you want to understand. Hi, I'm Boris, great to watch you live. Hi Boris, thanks for coming. I want scholarship to study Chinese, but I am Mexican with no college education. Okay, that's fair enough. Well, best of luck with your Chinese. You can learn Chinese in the first step for following the pronunciation. Okay, I've done the pronunciation first. Yeah. Tyler's World. I want a scholarship to study Chinese. Okay. Don't be scared to know so many variations of Chinese vocabulary. Okay. I think written one more difficult than the spoken one. Okay. So Boris asks, how's your life in Taiwan? Really good. Really good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I think out of all of the countries I've been to in Asia, or all the places I've been to Asia, Taiwan's definitely my favorite. And after a few months now, I feel like I've really got like a good group of friends. And like when I moved here first, I was like really, really nervous that what if I get there? What if I have no friends and whatever? But yeah, no, I'm really happy. I'm really enjoying it. So thanks for asking. Okay. Among other European languages, English is the easiest one to be learnt. It depends what your mother tongue is. In terms of lexical distance, it depends how close it is. But the one thing about English, compared to other languages, is there's just so much stuff available. Like on YouTube, Netflix, books, the amount of interesting content available in English, I'd say is, I mean, Spanish is also loads as well, to be fair, but like, it's just so much. So, yeah, I think. Which language between Mandarin and Canton is more interesting? Which one do you enjoy learning more? And that was from Muse. Hi, Muse. So it's weird reading messages from your girlfriend in a live stream. But hello. Yeah. Well, for me right now, I'd probably say Mandarin's more interesting, because the thing is, in Taiwan, it's like I'm in Taiwan, so it gives it a lot more relevance. And I have a lot of more friends. I have a lot of Taiwanese friends now compared to more Taiwanese friends than Hong Kong friends. So I kind of feel like in terms of relationships and stuff, then there's that. But obviously then there's all of your family and friends and stuff as well. So it's hard to choose. Probably just about Mandarin. Probably just edges it. Okay. So, where were we? Okay, so... Have I learned Fujinhua? Never. For Spanish speakers, Italian is using English. Yeah, it's closer to the pronunciation. Would I... So, Boris asks, will I test for like the Mandarin qualifications? I'm guessing he's talking about HSK. Probably not. Not yet. At least not in the near future. And I've said why earlier. I think I'd rather, as opposed to studying for a test, I'd rather study to learn about stuff I actually like. Like for me, I'm in Taiwan. I want to talk and be able to express myself on topics of interest, especially if I'm going to do an outreach here and I'm speaking to people in the public about all sorts of topics related to veganism and stuff like that. I want to speak about this. I don't want to learn what it says to learn in the HSK tests. I want to learn what I want to learn. So not in the near future. Maybe maybe sometime later. Okay. 你可以在 live 用普通话自我介绍吗? I mean, I'd rather keep this in English, but thanks for your question. He says, can I use Mandarin to introduce him? I'll just keep it, I'll keep it in English for now. But again, I'll upload more videos and speaking of Mandarin in the future. I prefer to study, so James Cook, I prefer to study a language with books for 4 years and then like look for who I can practice with. Yeah, fair enough. Like there's no rush to output. Again, like doing that would probably be a much, you probably much likely have much less mistakes. The bad thing about outputting early is because you can fossilize a lot of bad habits, and that is, that's definitely an issue. So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, he thinks it's useful to, I think it thinks it's useful to study vocabulary ordered in categories in Anki. Never Anki. So, if you find that useful, then yeah, go for means that we all just do what we find useful, right? So, thanks for the comment, James. Okay, so I can't read that name. I want to say it looks like, is it Korean or Japanese? I'm not sure. Anyway, sorry I don't know how to read your name, but I don't know how this will come across, but I personally feel blessed already having become fluent in a second language, brackets English, before starting Japanese, so I don't get too frustrated not understanding certain stuff or mumbling or never having been through the process once is pretty nice. Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, like when you first start, you can feel like you're not, you know, you kind of doubt, you kind of lack that self-belief. Like, can you actually do it or not? And it's kind of that, when you know you can, and it's just a case of exposure and time, you can be a lot more relaxed about stuff and just can, yeah, well, okay, if I keep going, I'll just slowly improve, so I don't need to worry about it too much. I can just kind of relax, expose myself, enjoy the journey, no need to stress out too much about the little things, and it'll get there over time. But say that to someone or me a few years ago, I would not listen. So I understand that it may fall on deaf ears, but yeah, I totally agree. And you know, for anyone listening, it really is just a case of just exposing yourself more, and over time you'll get better, and more practice, obviously. So no need to stress out too much, just slowly, and you'll get better over time. Hey Luke, did you vote with the internet for the UK election? What's it called? Proxy vote. Jordan, Jeremy, thank you for answering my question. Keep it up. Great work. Thank you. And thanks so much for commenting and for all the support everyone's given me so far. I really do appreciate it. Okay, really fun. Boris says really fun. I'm not sure what's really fun, but okay, it's good you're having fun. And then the last one, Retro AGV, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. English seems easy because people forget they've been learning it in school since they were 10. Yeah, okay. I can't comment on learning English as a second language, but I know a lot of people, yeah, they start learning English in school for years and years and years, and although they might not be fluent coming out of it, at least they have a foundation. So when they start like getting more interested in being more like independent with their learning at like a later age, they already have a base and something to jump into. So I have heard that. I watched a video of my friend Kevin Abroad, about his experience learning English. Let me just, I can find it and link it to the chat actually. And you know, for anyone who's not an English speaker, he speaks like really good English. He speaks wonderful English. So let me just, and he's very honest about his experience learning, which is something that people aren't enough of these days. So let's see. My struggles with English. This is the video. Okay. So for anyone learning English, maybe you can relate to Kevin's video here. I think it's, you know, he makes a lot of good points, and that, yeah, I think people underestimate how much effort a lot of people go into study English, and I can say that for a fact. A lot of my friends here in Taiwan really want to learn English. are putting in a lot of effort, but find it really hard. Whether that's using ineffective methods like focusing on grammar over input, then yeah, you know. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. But again, the one thing that English does have going for it is that there's so much content. So, okay. When you first start reading in Chinese, this is, again, I'm not sure what language that is. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. N, it looks like a mu, K, O, looks like a weird C. I'm not sure what language that is, but not sure how to pronounce your name. So sorry about that. But when you first start reading in Chinese, how did you manage facing a wall of characters? I think it's too hard in the early stages. Yeah. I'd read short stuff. Like, maybe I don't know what answer you want, but yeah, I start reading really short stuff. So like really short videos on YouTube. Okay, I'll take you over to the link and give you a look at some of the stuff I studied at the beginning. Let me just close this. Okay, and then go over to the link. So if I go to my lessons and then this is so slow. Week 1, harder. Okay. This is so slow. Okay, here we go. I'll just click on this one. So a lot of the time I'd input short videos into link. And you know, this is the text here. It's not very long. So you've got, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections, all with a few lines on this. And link does break it up, so it's not a wall of text, it's this few lines, and then it's these few lines, and then it's these few lines. So I feel like it's not as intimidating, and especially you have the sentence mode here. If you find it really intimidating, you can go through a sentence at a time. I don't like the sentence mode, I prefer this mode, but yeah, that could be a thing. And pick short stuff with audio to help you, you know. And yeah, and also texting is great because you only deal with one sentence at a time. So I would recommend texting a lot at the early stages and picking short stuff and spending your time going through short things with audio. And then basically what you can do is, this was like a 5-minute video with like very slow speech or whatever. Then you can move on to 比较 like comparatively longer pieces of text after that, or longer videos, and you can just move on to slowly longer stuff, and then you can move on to, you know, something like this, which is maybe 10 minutes long or 6 minutes, and there's more content, and then just, you know, progressively move on to longer videos. And then when you've done that quite a lot, and you've texted quite a lot, and you've got used to that somewhat, move on to books with short chapters. Okay, short chapters. For Chinese, I highly recommend The Linguist by Steve Kaufman, because his chapters are really short. In fact, I'll give you a quick look now. Let me just go to Google Drive. I'm just full screening with that, so I don't need to see me logging into Google Drive. So let me, Chinese books, somewhere, books, traditional, okay, linguist, okay. So I'd recommend picking books with short chapters that aren't too complicated if you want to step into the world of books, or you can also try manga as well. So this is Steve's book. Let me try and find the start. This is like the forefront, the introduction. So again, starts there, one. That's it, 1 page, really short. Again, this is the introduction, and it's split into little sections with this little questions here. Again, like a few pages. Next one. This is super short. So I find that's, if you want to progress into the world of books, that is I'd recommend Steve Kaufman's book, and also the stuff he says in the book is really motivating, hearing about the story as well. So that's kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone. So yeah, my advice, so facing the world of text, start with stuff with audio and text. Use videos. I like videos from YouTube, or you can use textbooks from Dialogue. Progressively use longer and longer content, and when you're ready, make a jump to books with short chapters, and you can supplement that with manga and texting if you want, or comic books or whatever. Okay. So again, I don't know how to read your name, but I learnt German in school from ages 13 to 18, and now as a 22-year-old, I remember almost nothing. I am not functional at all, so I wouldn't say school is a main part. It has to be the enormous exposure. Yeah, I learnt German for 4 years in school. I learnt French for 6 years in school, and I cannot even understand a basic sentence. I can't even remember how to say "how are you." Wait, German? Wie geht's? There you go. 4 years of German in school, and I can say "wie geht's." So, admittedly, I wasn't very interested in German then, and I just about passed the exam and left it at that. But yeah, I don't think it's the best measure. But I think at least it's something. It's not starting from complete zero, which does help. So it's not amazing, but at least it's a head start. Okay. To the English media and so on. Yep, absolutely. James Cook. People who try to learn English in Mexico claim to dislike the US/language, but then again, not speaking English cripples them. On the other hand, people who learn French are Francophiles. Okay, cool. That's the end of the chat. I don't know much about the situation in Mexico and why people learn French, but thank you for sharing. Again, thank you for everyone who watched so far. So what I'm going to do is, if you weren't here for the introduction, tomorrow I'm going to go back. I'm going to add timestamps over what I talked over. I'm going to, hopefully you can find the questions relevant to you and go through that again. Thank you for watching. Thank you if you're watching live or after or whatever, or you're subscribed and like this video. So again, if you find it useful, let me know and I can do more like it in the future. And as always, give me thumbs up, like, share, comment, all of that stuff, because it really does help me out. And I do want to try and grow this channel a bit if I can. So I really appreciate all the support, and thank you guys so much. So I will see you guys soon. Peace.